critical race that split the season into two has just finished, and we have like 3 to 4 weeks of rest, and we go harder again. The Belgian Grand Prix was a thrill. It was so interesting because, like I said, I knew the Red Bull cannot win the race. They cannot be on podium. I said it yesterday, and I'll tell you why. I love the Red Bull, like I've always said. I love every team, every driver, but the position Max Verstappen was starting 11th is a no-go area for him to win the race, except something happens to the starters. And like we saw at the beginning, we thought Lewis Hamilton was having water or fluid leakage. But fortunately, it was all good for him. And with the McLarens there, and the Ferrari and Mercedes, it will be difficult for Red Bull to overtake them. And sincerely, McLarens are fast. Even in the race, the Red Bulls were unable to overtake McLaren. They were only able to undercut them. That was the only thing they were able to do. So there's no way they were able to win. And again, Sergio Perez is in a very precarious and difficult position presently with the car and also with his race, because he has lost confidence. And when the driver loses confidence, these are the things that we see. This is what happens to him. If you look at the confidence Lewis Hamilton had gained since he won the Silverstone race, has transcended him into a good qualifier and a good winner. And if you look at the last 3 races, he has qualified better than his teammate, and he had ran the race better than his teammate. He had done well, and this race, he did a very good job. But you cannot put a Mercedes behind Mercedes in a slipstream and the dirty hair will not affect him. Certainly that was what happened to him towards the end of the race. Max Verstappen kept on proving that he is a good driver and he can deliver. And Lewis Hamilton kept on delivering that he is a 7-time champion and he is not giving up yet. We saw Charles Leclerc start the race on pole because of Max Verstappen's 10th place grid penalty, and Sergio Perez starting beside him. Sergio Perez thought he would be able to jump Leclerc like he did last year, so he pointed the car towards Leclerc and towards Lewis Hamilton. But Lewis Hamilton had other plans. Lewis Hamilton was like, what you did last year, I am going to do it this year. I won't give you a chance. So from third, Lewis Hamilton was able to charge through the lap 1 and was able to take the second position from Perez, and that was it. Then he took the second position, he extended it, and was able to overtake Charles Leclerc and took the lead position right on lap 3. And that was a great start for everybody. No accidents all through the race. The only retirement we had was Zhou Guanyu. Everybody scaled through from lap 1, lap 2, and it was on all through that. Zhou Guanyu was able to pit lap 5 and his race ended. Now, the strategy. The race was won by strategy. That was what won the race today. It's pure strategy. Lewis Hamilton has a strategy. George Russell has a strategy, but George Russell was able to overcut Lewis Hamilton's strategy to win the race. Now, Lewis Hamilton was good on his tires. Immediately he was in front. He was lapping faster, and he said something. He told the team that he has a good tire on the first stint of pit stop, but they were like, they need to cover up for those that have undercutted him. But unnecessarily for them, they did that. If he had been on the medium tire for 20 laps, which I know he can do, he would just train to add and do 24 laps, and that is a race winning lap for him. But unfortunately, they were trying to cover up. Meanwhile, his teammate had other plans. He pitted and he was like, on this tire, I'm going to finish. And that was it. Great race for the McLarens. Oscar Piastri, since his win last week, he has been showing he has some decent pace. He is also in it for McLaren and is a very strong contender this season. And this is showing all around the grid that these guys are not here to play. Oscar Piastri pushed Perez, pushed Leclerc, pushed Max Verstappen himself through this race, and he made sure he was able to push all these guys and to show them that yes, he is a good driver to reckon with and he's not here to play. McLaren are having a good car and he's going to show everybody what he can do. Lando Norris did a tremendous job. He was unable to overtake Carlos Sainz for a bit because they were all in the DRS train, and the DRS train started from George Russell, and George Russell held everybody in DRS as he was on DRS against Oscar Piastri, and at the point he fell off the DRS and he made sure he was able to hold everybody behind him. George Russell drove a very beautiful race today, was able to hold people back and was able to win the race. But his win is still under doubt because it was said through the lift and coast and everything he was doing, he has less fuel, which might be as a result of maybe the team under fueling him or taking away a little bit fuel for him, which might have favored him while racing against his teammate. And also Lewis Hamilton was in his dirty hair and he was unable to overtake him, and I think that played a big role. Also, I think the team did not tell Lewis Hamilton to push the tires because those tires can be pushed. Looking at what his teammate George Russell was doing with the tire, if they had told him to push the tire at the beginning of the stint, after not seeing it for like 2 laps, push the tire, he would have been able to overtake his teammate before lap 40, and that would have been the end of the race. And also, it's a good win for them because 1 and 2 for them. If Lewis Hamilton had been able to overtake his teammate would have been an easy pick for Oscar Piastri to overtake, and that really was their race. So the first set of boxing or pitting was from lap 8, and it was started by Nico Hülkenberg pitting on lap 8. Then every other person started coming in from lap 10 to lap 12 for the first pitting, and right there the undercut started. And at that point, Lando Norris was left out there. That was where his race was messed up. The way Max Verstappen race was messed up last week by his team, that was the biggest mistake McLaren did this weekend. The same mistake Red Bull did last week was McLaren's mistake this week, and I think they could have done better if they wanted to, but I think it is still all in the loop for them, and it's a race for them to win. Oscar Piastri could have easily won the race also, but also a race for them to lose, in which they did the opposite. They lost beautifully. And this is another sorry case for McLaren this season. They've had about 5 almost winnings this season, which has not happened to them. And Mercedes winning 3 races in 4. Austria, Silverstone, and Belgium 3 races in 4. And is that showing us that the Mercedes are back in contention for the championship? Well, we would know before the end of the season. Those 2 drivers are far off the pace in competition. McLaren is more closer, in which Lando Norris is the closest to Max Verstappen. But today, Max Verstappen was still able to scrape some points out ahead of Oscar Piastri to still stay in much points ahead of him, which will give him a whole lot of headache all through the mid-season break. But I think the McLaren will come out of it. They need to rest and reset. But the position in which Red Bull are presently, I think they've beaten past what they can eat, and this is going to be a terrible season for them because they've lost their chief designer, and what they've designed this year is proving to be less competitive to other teams, because other teams have risen up to the task and they're closer to them, and they are really giving them a run for their money. And how can Red Bull really get back? I think they need to look at what they've designed, because in this race they went back to Sergio Perez's model to race in Belgium. Meanwhile, Mercedes took off their updates to race in Belgium because the updates were not working, and the Mercedes that was not fast on Friday was extremely fast in the race today. That was why they were able to come 1-2, but the McLaren still looks faster than them. Oscar Piastri was shelling some pace that was outstanding. Meanwhile, Lando Norris too was shelling some pace that was so outstanding. So the downforce level and the aerodynamics level determined one of the things that affected the McLaren of Lando Norris and gave a better effect for Red Bull's Max Verstappen in the race. Also, looking at the race, I think Mercedes still have a lot to learn. They have 3 or 4 weeks to really put things together, and face it, Ferrari were fast today. Seriously, with what they have coming back from mid-season, with all their learnings, they should be able to bring a stronger car, a more competitive car that will push them or put them at the edge or make them to be more competitive. I think Ferrari will be in the mix also because it's going to be a very beautiful race. But as beautiful as the race is, the top 6 came in tenths away from each other, which is one of the closest races of the season. They were all fast, they were all on point, and they were all there. From after the top 6, the rest were far away from them. Sergio Perez was far away. And this mid-season break will determine if he will stay at Red Bull or he will be leaving. Maybe he will be demoted, maybe he will be leaving the team totally after 2 years. They will have to pay him for 2 years that he has signed for, I think. But the mid-season break will show, because it's really pressure on him, and I don't know how he will be able to wear this pressure with the present position and contention and where they are presently. I don't know how he will do it, but he has to come up with a trick to make sure he is really in contention and is not being asked away. Certainly, I have said it, his ads and sponsorship are what is paying Max Verstappen's salary, but they still need to look at his performance, and I think Red Bull too also need to look at themselves and see what performance they are giving him and what the car is doing for him and how he is feeling with the car. And also, his driving style is different from Max Verstappen's style, everybody knows, and is he or will he be able to be in that seat and compete? Now, what driver or which driver would they be able to bring to compete with Max Verstappen? Right now, we know Red Bull don't need a competitor with Max Verstappen, they just need a support. The best support I think Red Bull can have now is to bring Daniel Ricciardo. But can we see a Daniel Ricciardo Max Verstappen part 2? Or are we going to see a Liam Lawson Max Verstappen? It's going to be a tricky one for Red Bull, but they need to deal with these situations and know how they manage these situations, because I don't wish to be in Red Bull's shoes, because it's all messy for them now and they're making everything where they really are. Now, like I said, the win is not yet confirmed, though it has been celebrated, but it's not yet confirmed for George Russell. And why? Because they found low fuel in his car, which might affect his race. He might be disqualified They are trying to weigh a lot of parameters. That's what they are going through now. They're able to weigh it, and is found guilty, he'll be disqualified, and that will affect Mercedes points on Constructors Championship, and that will affect their 1-2, and also that might promote Lewis to his second win of the season, and they will totally take away the points of George Russell, and that is not good for Mercedes. After all the effort running 34 laps on the hard tire on a grippy and very hard circuit, it will not really speak well of how he has performed today, and I think they should look at that very well. I know the stewards are fair, FIA will be fair in this, they should look at it. But if you can remember what happened last year too, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, because of the plank, the race was taken away from them and they had no points. So we don't know what we would expect, but I'll give you an update on that. Daily we get news in a short. But there'll be other videos of the mid-season, the drivers rating, the team's rating, and how these people have performed. But I can tell you, the second part of the season, you're starting right in Netherlands, another home race for Max Verstappen, and we'll be moving to Italy, Monza, to be a back-to-back, and to be very, very interesting. I tell you, you don't want to miss these races. Ferrari are coming back, Mercedes are back, McLaren are on top, Red Bull are struggling. It's a 4-way drive, 4-way mix. Alpine is coming up again. Williams are on point. As are showing that they have the right performance from Ayao Komatsu, and it's going to be very interesting. So like I said earlier, George Russell was being investigated. He has been disqualified now, and the Mercedes have released a statement that they take it on their chin because they made a mistake. He didn't fulfill the requirements of post-racing, which is meant to have a certain amount of fuel in his car. It was lower than that, which means he will be disqualified. It has happened to Lewis Hamilton on planks, himself and Charles Leclerc before. It has happened to Sebastian Vettel before, and some few other races, but those are the ones that are really recent. Sebastian Vettel was in 2022. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc was last year. Lewis Hamilton was not fuel related in Austin. Himself and Charles Leclerc were plank related, the plank under IndyCar. So he has been disqualified, and Lewis Hamilton is re-inheriting the win. That makes the 105 wins, 2 wins for him this season, 105 career wins, with podiums still counting. What a way to end the race for the team. The 1 and 2 they're unable to secure. It's now Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri second, and Charles Leclerc third. All these recruiting, driver lineups, second part of the season, a lot of announcements, a lot of people leaving, a lot of people changing teams. Is going to be bombastic, ballistic, entertaining. Join me for more analysis, for more F1 updates. I love you guys. Bye. Cheers.